Is Belarus on the verge of disappearing as a sovereign nation? According to leaked documents from Putin's regime, the country is set to be absorbed by Russia in the next few years as part of a larger plan to restore the Soviet Union. In this video, we'll explore the startling revelations from the documents and discuss implications for United States foreign policy amidst ongoing conflicts. We'll also delve into why Putin views Belarus as a significant geopolitical advantage and what it means for neighboring NATO territories. Stay tuned to find out why the potential takeover of Belarus could have hazardous implications for the whole planet. Startling revelations have emerged about Putin's regime and its secret ambitions. Internal strategy documents leaked from the executive office of Vladimir Putin expose a larger scope of his ambitions beyond the invasion of Ukraine. The documents reveal Putin's designs on other European countries and his plans to absorb Belarus into the Russian fold. In fact, the documents written by the presidential administration detail Putin's goal to take full control of Belarus within a few years and incorporate it into a union state with Russia. These plans are seen as Putin's end goal to restore the Soviet Union, and the leaked documents provide clear steps to achieve that objective. A video discussing the leaked documents and Putin's plans for Belarus is of paramount importance, particularly with implications for United States foreign policy amidst ongoing conflicts. Viewers are encouraged to like the video to counter bots in the comments section and to subscribe to the channel. The Belarus documents dispelled initial thoughts that Putin's invasion of Ukraine was impulsive or led by greed. The manifesto-like guide reveals Putin's meticulous plan to absorb Belarus into Russia by 2030, a country that is currently independent but will soon become Russian territory. As per a Western intelligence officer with first-hand knowledge of the matter, Russia's FSB, SVR, and GRU intelligence services are working together to advance their agenda, as documented in a strategy paper that was presented in 2021. The leaked document, which was obtained through a considerable effort by an internal group of journalists from Yahoo News and its partners, provides a revealing look into this plan. According to sources, the strategy paper was written by the Presidential Directorate for Cross-Border Cooperation, a branch of Putin's presidential administration with vague responsibilities that were established 5 years ago. It seems that the document sheds light on what this division's objectives are. The strategy paper outlines political, economic, and military plans that are laid out in a detailed, step-by-step manner that is unsettling to consider. It's quite concerning to acknowledge that these events are taking place in the current century, but the available evidence strongly indicates that they are indeed happening. In contrast to his hostile approach to Ukraine, Putin intends to charm and pressure Belarus. For a while now, the adjacent nation has maintained amicable ties with Russia, and they have actively participated in the Ukraine conflict at the request of Russia, which has been concerning. Putin plans to use this goodwill and acquiescence to draw Belarus further into Russia's orbit. Yahoo News has obtained documents indicating that Putin has a plan to create a Russia-Belarus union state by 2030, which would be the beginning of a new decade and is expected to be implemented in the next 7 years. The plan has been meticulously laid out, concerning every aspect, including the law, judicial system, foreign and defense policy, trade, economic cooperation, and even the merging of cultural influences. What's concerning is that the process is already underway, with Russia's influence seeping into various sectors of Belarus's structure, advancing their agenda. It's reminiscent of those movies where an imperial force manipulates individuals into thinking they're making their own decisions, when in reality, they're aiding a greater plan. Within the next 10 years, it is possible that Belarus will cease to exist as a sovereign country and instead become a subservient entity under Russia's control, forced to comply with Moscow's desires. The thought of it is truly frightening. We've witnessed Putin's expansionist ambitions in Crimea, Ukraine, and now Belarus. It's clear that he wants to reclaim what he sees as his legacy, the restoration of the Soviet Union, as NATO grows stronger. Will Putin be satisfied with what he's taken so far, or does he plan to take everything? Some may argue that Putin's goal is a union state, not annexation. But the vast difference in strength and wealth between Russia and Belarus makes that idea laughable. It's just Putin's way of making the language colorful, similar to when he called the invasion of Ukraine a military exercise. Belarus as a nation will likely disappear, and Putin seems to view his neighbors as rogue states that need to be brought back under his control. That is why countries like Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland have sought protection from NATO. It's worth noting that these countries are Belarus's direct neighbors, which is important to consider when discussing why Putin has made Belarus his next target. Unlike his actions in Ukraine, he's approaching this situation more peacefully. However, both Putin and Lukashenko are authoritarian leaders, and Lukashenko has granted permission for Russian forces to mass on the border with Ukraine, causing concern for their safety. During President Biden's visit to Ukraine, a Russian MiG fighter jet took off in Belarus, triggering an air raid siren. If even a single soldier from Ukraine sets foot on our land, I am ready to join forces with Russia and go to war. Belarus was once a constituent republic of the Soviet Association and became sovereign in 1991, following the crumbling of the USSR, very much like numerous different nations. Nonetheless, not at all like Poland and Latvia, which created some distance from Moscow, Belarus has kept a cozy relationship with Russia, both concerning financial and political ties. Belarus initially played a neutral role and had friendly relations with both Russia and European nations. Belarus even provided neutral territory for peace meetings. Be that as it may, the circumstance changed emphatically during the 2020 official political decision. Alexander Lukashenko, who had been the leader of Belarus starting around 1994, won the political race, in a way like Putin's tyranny style. Lukashenko generally won by an embarrassing margin. However, worldwide spectators believed the races to be unreasonable and rigged. Despite the forecast that his opponent would arise successfully, Alexander Lukashenko was reported as the victor of the political decision with an 80% greater part. This outcome was met with dissent from both the Belarusian people and the United States and European allies, who objected to the results. It was evident that there was vote tampering. In the capital of Belarus, Minsk, there have been extensive demonstrations that persisted for several weeks, marked by disorder, anger, and calls for transformation. A gathering of demonstrators is requiring the renunciation of President Alexander Lukashenko, who stands blamed for deceitful political race rehearsals. A few people have been captured and exposed to heartless treatment while in care. Lukashenko has called upon military leaders to employ power to preserve the country, but as the state of affairs escalated, he requested aid from his associate, Vladimir Putin. The Russian leader announced that his military would intervene if needed, providing Lukashenko with the necessary support to conduct a massive crackdown. Political opponents and journalists were jailed, human rights organizations were shut down, and extremist displays were criminalized, severely violating human rights. This action further isolated Belarus from the West and strengthened Lukashenko's alliance with Russia. However, Putin's support came at a cost, as he gained leverage over Belarus. In 2021, Putin and Lukashenko signed an agreement for 28 integration programs focused on economic and regulatory matters, but not on political unification. This agreement could be the starting point for a complete takeover by Russia, as evidenced by a leaked document. It seems that Lukashenko's 3-decade-long presidency has come at the expense of Belarus's sovereignty and independence, with Putin unlikely to let go of such a strategically valuable asset. Why? Putin views Belarus as a significant geopolitical advantage that can serve his military strategy. With almost 700 miles of shared border with Ukraine, Belarus provides an easier path for attacking Kyiv than Moscow. Hence, Putin has used and continues to use Belarus as a base for his war with Ukraine, with Russian jets flying into Ukraine from the Belarus outpost. If Putin succeeds in taking over Belarus, it will directly border NATO territory in Latvia and Poland, bolstering Russia's presence and strength with the resources gained from Belarus and Ukraine. The question then arises, is Putin aiming to strengthen the world and reclaim other Baltic states, or does he have other motives in mind? The leaked documents regarding Belarus have raised concerns about whether similar documents exist for the other neighboring nations, suggesting that Putin may have already initiated his moves unnoticed. Regardless, taking over a nation's sovereignty can never be justified or supported, and it's unlikely to lead to any positive outcomes. Given the speed at which situations are transpiring, it appears to be impossible that we'll have to stand by significantly longer to observe the result. The consequences of Putin's intentions towards Belarus have broad and possibly hazardous implications, not only for the local area, but for the whole planet. It is evident that a synchronized reaction from the Western nations will be necessary to counter this developing danger, lest they find themselves taken by surprise and unready. It's vital to recognize that this is a complex and evolving situation, and there is no easy solution. Still, we must not turn a blind eye to the potential risks and consequences. It's essential to stay informed, question the sources of information, and remain critical of the narratives presented. As global citizens, we must pressure our leaders to act in the interest of peace, democracy, and human rights. Only by working together can we hope to find a path toward a peaceful resolution of this crisis.